everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna. This is Coffee, Books, and Bullet Journals, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the books that I read in the month of September. Okay, so the month of September was really weird. I had probably the weirdest reading month, the most varied reading month I've ever had while on BookTube. I had some really, really bad books. In fact, I DNF'd 3 books this month. Yeah. And then I also had 2 books that will absolutely end up on my favorite books of 2019. So really, really, really freaking weird. So let's talk about some stats. Like I said, I DNF'd 3 books. And so those are not included in my stats. I only add my stats once I finish the book. So even though I might have read 100 or 200 pages of said book, it's not in my stats because I didn't finish the book. So I did finish 12 books this month, so not bad as far as quantity. That equaled out to a total of 3,874 pages. My average rating, and obviously not including DNFs because I didn't rate them, my average was a 3.17, which was my lowest month ever this year. So that kind of sucks. But like I said, I had some really, really amazing books too. This was also the first month of the year because I started tracking my reading in January of 2018. So in 2019, I was able to kind of see how I'm doing month to, year to year. So like the month of September last year to the month of September this year. This was the first month that I actually read less than I did in 2018. Part of that was because last year I was making a cross-country road trip, and I'm pretty sure I read 3 audiobooks during that time because it was contemporary-a-thon of last year. And so I just read a lot. All right, so if you remember from my TBR video, you knew that I was going to be reading a lot of ARCs. I was trying to work on my NetGalley, and I did that. I definitely did. So I read 2 2017 releases, 1 2018 release, and 9 2019 releases. All but one was a ARC. One of them was just a new release that I picked up. As far as genres are concerned, I did read 6 contemporary, which is not surprising as the contemporary-a-thon was happening in September. But I did read 2 fantasies, 2 graphic novels, 1 romance, which was a contemporary romance, and then 1 thriller, which was also a contemporary. So as far as ratings, I mean, you're probably guessing because I had a pretty low average rating, but I had 2 2-star books, 3 2.5-star books, 3 3-star books, 1 3.5-star book, 1 4-star book, and 2 5-star books. Anyways, let's start by talking about the DNFs because there were 3 of them. So I'm going to quickly talk about them. I'm just going to talk about why they didn't work, and we'll just go from there. The first book that I DNF'd was Mainly by Moonlight by Josh something. I'll put the cover here. This was kind of sold to me as this male romance with that were they were wizards or magicians or something, and that's not what it was. We had a lot more police drama and a lot less romance and magic. So I didn't really, I just wasn't into it. I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't care about any of the characters, which was a bummer. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I'm not saying it was a bad book. It just wasn't what I was expecting. And so it kind of gave me a negative reaction to it. The next book that I DNF'd was Lair of Dreams by Libet Bray. This was part of the read-along that Chelsea and Melanie and Madeline and Jane, I think, are doing. And they're this month they're on to the next one. I have all these books. I'm not saying I'm going to DNF it forever. I just, I was listening to the audiobook and I really didn't care. I didn't want to pick this book up. And, I wasn't going to force myself through it. It just wasn't the story for me at the time. And then the last book that I DNF'd was Watching You by Lisa Jewell. This was actually the Literary Alliance group read for my book club, and I got to like probably day 3, and I just couldn't do it. And I know that there were like 3 other people in the group that DNF'd it, so I don't feel so bad. This was just so freaking boring that I couldn't get into it. Again, I was listening to the audio. I didn't like the audio narrator, so that might have had something to do with it. I was reading too many other physical books at the time that I just kind of had to listen to the audio, and it was just a chore to get through. And you know what? Reading shouldn't be a chore. I didn't enjoy it. I put it down. Now on to the books that I actually finished. So the first one was How to Hack a Heartbreak by Kristen Rockaway. This was an arc that I received from NetGalley, and I rated it 2 stars. And this book was a poor imitation of what The Right Swipe was. Not saying that they copied each other, because they came out roughly about the same time, so obviously like that wasn't a thing. But this was about a woman who was a coder, I guess. Like, she had a computer engineering degree, I don't remember, but she worked at a help desk, and there was this online dating thing where, kind of like Tinder, where like you would swipe, and then like she kept getting stood up for dates, and so then she like got mad, got upset about it, and created this website where people could kind of log their dates and like the bad, terrible things that men had done to women. It wasn't great. I mean, there was just a lot of things that like the plausibility of it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So the first thing, there is a love interest in there, which like half the time you think he's the worst guy in the world, and half the time you think that he's like the knight in shining armor. And so, like, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. So I just didn't feel anything. I didn't care, like, about any of the relationships or any of that, to be honest. The other thing is like, she was if she coded a website in 4 hours and it did really, really well, and she has this degree, the odds of her getting stuck in this dead-end help desk job that she constantly complained about is slim to none. Like, she could quit her job and in 2 hours have a new job as somebody who like actually does work on apps and codes, or does some sort of like, I don't know, I don't work on computers, so I don't know. The job market for that field is pretty high. Like, you would think especially like as a woman, because companies are really trying to get women engineers and coders and computer gurus, I don't know what they're called, but whatever. You know what I mean? They're trying to get more women in there, just, for diversity purposes. So like the fact that she was like stuck in this job for 4 years just means that she's lazy. Anyways, that was my 2-star read. I didn't like it. All right, the next book is probably my biggest disappointment of the year. This was a highly anticipated read for me. I was so excited about this. This is one of the 2019 releases that I didn't get an ARC for, but I had tried on multiple levels to get. I was so excited about this book, and it was not good, or at least in my opinion. And also, this is where I'm going to put the PSA, and I put this on Twitter. If there is a book that you didn't like, but the rest of BookTube is singing its praises, your opinion is valid. It's okay to not like a book that everyone else in the bookternet loves. This happened to 2 different books, this one and one other one that a lot of people read during Contemporary-a-thon and absolutely loved. And I didn't like them, and you know what? That's okay. At first, I was like really upset with myself, and I was like, well, did I miss something? Did I just not get what like I was supposed to out of the book? But that was invalidating my own thoughts, and I have opinions. They are valid. They are my opinions. They may not be yours. I don't care. Sorry to be like get onto my like soapbox for a minute, but I don't want to be the type of person that like, I'm not ever gonna get upset that somebody rated one of my favorite books really low. That's their opinion. But at the same time, I want that same respect. And so like, I'm gonna talk about these next 2 books. They're really well-loved books, and I gave them 2 and 2.5 stars respectively. So let's talk about the first one. That is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. And I gave it 2 stars. I did not like this book. So there were some things that I did like about it. I did like the Renaissance fair setting. You don't see that a lot in books. Kind of, would like to see more of that. I also liked the relationship between Emily and her sister April, I think. In fact, April was probably what saved this book at all. She was a realist. I did enjoy that. So basically, this is a story about Emily who goes to a small town because her boyfriend dumped her. And so then her sister had gotten into a car accident and needed some help with her daughter, so Emily's niece. So she goes to this town for the summer and kind of gets wrapped up in the Renaissance fair and working as a barmaid for that. And then she meets Simon, who the first time she meets him, hates him. They get into this argument about her filling out the form wrong. And my notes when I first read this is he is the biggest asshole I've ever freaking met. This is gonna have to be a huge leap for me to even give a crap about him later on in the book, because I knew he was gonna be the love interest. And he didn't make that big of a leap. There were a couple of scenes in here that were very romantic. There was the wooing scene. He knew how to turn it on. He knew how to be romantic. But you know what? So do players. So do players. Anyways, let's talk about some things that I didn't like. So we kind of talked about the fact that Simon was an asshole, and I just, couldn't be bothered to care about him as a romantic interest. So there's one. Two, this book is incredibly sexist and reverse sexist. Not reverse sexist. Emily's a hypocrite. We'll just say that. So there's this one scene where she's oogling a guy because he's wearing a kilt. And there's all this ridiculous talk and everything like that. But when said guy looks at her because she's in a corset, and so you can see her cleavage and she's well endowed, she's my eyes are up here, why, and basically writes him off. So you can say that and think that to a guy, but he doesn't get to do that to you? No. Equal playing field here. That's what we need. Okay? The other thing is, and I think this kind of goes along with whole not really liking Simon, is we were well over 50% of the way into the book before we got any backstory on Simon. He was a complete mystery. He so we didn't really understand his intentions, and then when the intentions were explained, they were poor. They were poor. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the fact that this could be something that's a personal trigger to me, so I don't want to blanket statement this, but I feel this relationship is emotionally abusive. There was a time when he got mad at her for something, and then she wanted to apologize for him getting mad. No. I'm not okay with that. And like I said, that's something that's personally triggering to me. That's a personal thing. So that might have played a role in my rating of this book, but I'm just not okay with that. And it just really, really turned me off. And it was upsetting that none of the reviews talked about that. Nothing was said about that. For me, that's an emotionally abusive relationship. If one partner feels like that they have to apologize because another partner blew up for no reason. I am going to link Ivy Muse's review of this down below. This is already taking longer than I wanted to, but she has a very, very well thought out rant review about this book, and it kind of summarized a lot of my thoughts. So I'm going to link it down below and let you see for yourself. Okay, moving on to my 2.5-star books, the one of them also being one that's very highly praised on BookTube, and that is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. Like I said, a lot of people read and loved this book during Contemporary-a-thon, and unfortunately I was not one of them. So some things that I really loved about this book, I loved Pablo's family. His father was basically Yoda. He had so many nonsensical, quotable, life, inspirational things, and I loved that. His friend group, his roommates, that was a really, really nice touch. I liked how quirky they were. It was great. And then obviously, this was a very ethnically diverse book, so I appreciate that. I think its own voices, but don't quote me on that. Now, on the flip side, I 100% did not buy this relationship. Why? I guess this, I don't know if this is YA or new adult, but whatever. Insta-love is one of my most pet peeve tropes. I don't buy it, but I'm sorry. But if you've known someone for, 2 days, what was it? You don't jump on a plane and fly halfway across the country when you're 20 years old and you have responsibilities. Like, I would have never thought to do that. I also don't really, I don't know if it's that I don't buy, I don't relate to stories about celebrities, and I don't really enjoy them that much. They just have to be really well done for me to enjoy them, and this one I just didn't feel like it was. There were a lot of plot holes with his relationship with his mother, at least that I was able to see. There was no rhyme or reason as to why he just wouldn't ask her for money, wouldn't ask, she's a doctor. But there wasn't, if they would have made an explanation as to why he didn't ask for money, or why he wouldn't go to her, why he wouldn't tell her about his problems, I would have probably been on board with that. But because he just never told her, he was too prideful, or whatever it was, we just never got a reason why. So that was kind of confusing to me. And to be honest, the two main characters I found annoying. I'll be honest. I think that they literally just complained about their life situation for 90% of the book. But neither one of them could relate to each other because they were on such opposite ends of the spectrum that it didn't make any sense. We were just yelling at a brick wall because they can't be oh yeah, no, I totally get that. I don't have enough money to pay my cell phone bill either. So I appreciate what Mary H.K. Choi was trying to do with this book. I appreciate the financial differences and the things that millennials have to go through on a day-to-day basis and try to deal with. This story did not vibe with me. And it is what it is. The next book that I gave 2.5 stars to was Reverie by Ryan Lasala. This is a book that comes out at the end of the year. Don't remember the exact date, but I know it's sometime in December. And I wanted to love this book so bad. It was so, the synopsis is great. There's a drag queen in it, and it's not a portal fantasy, but dreams. And he can create these dreams in these fantasy worlds. I was so confused by this book. I don't think that the magic system was quite developed enough, and I was so confused by it. There was so much going on. It started off really strong. I really liked that, but it just kind of I got lost. I got confused. I didn't know what was the reverie and what was real life. I don't know, this might just be his writing style. It could be. It was very blatant about being overtly gay. It was kind of stereotypical of drag queen culture and things like that. About there was one thing the hairspray that held her hair up needed a Medal of Honor for dealing with that. And I was just it just kind of it got repetitive as the book went on. It would have been really good in 1 or 2 instances, but it was every couple pages we had some comment. And it just, I don't know, it just got repetitive. I love his snarkiness and his sass. The writing style is very sassy, and I enjoyed that. I will read books from Ryan Lasala again. I just think that there just needs to be a little bit more development there. The next 2.5 star book that I read was a graphic novel called The OK Witch by Emma Steinkellner, and this was a really cute middle grade graphic novel. It was about a 13-year-old who finds out she's a witch, finds out her powers, and is trying to develop those. But it felt really jumbled. We went back and forth in time, and you didn't know you were going back and forth in time. And also, one of the things that bugs me in graphic novels is if there's a speech bubble and there's a ton of words on it. It draws me out a little bit because I have to I can't go faster. It's just a personal preference for me, but that was something that bugged me a little bit. There was a lot going on in this book, but also at the same time, nothing going on. If that makes sense. I did read it towards the beginning of the month, but I cannot tell you what the plot was. It was adorable and cute, and the art style is really cute, but that's pretty much all it has going for it. All right, moving on to my 3-star reads. The first one was a book that I read during Contemporary, I thought, and that is The Wives by Taryn Fisher. This does come out on December 30th. And this was another book that I really, really wanted to like. It had a very interesting premise. It was about a woman who is married to a man who is married to 2 other wives, but none of the wives know each other. And then she finds a receipt or something that has the other wife's name on, and then she goes on this whole adventure of trying to find out who the other two wives are. And the first probably 40% of the book, I absolutely loved. I was like, this is going to be like a 4 to 5 star book. This is so good. It was engrossing. I read through it so quickly. And then the middle definitely lagged. And then the ending, yeah, dropped the ball on it. I don't want to go into that much detail, but like that was absolutely probably the worst ending I've read all year. And the other thing that really bugged me about it was we handled mental health horribly. She like there were parts in it where like they were just basically saying that she was crazy and she was making things up and she needed to be institutionalized, and it like that was just the immediate thing that they jumped to, rather than like actually taking her claims seriously and trying to listen and understand her. They just automatically jumped to, well, she's crazy. She's a nutcase. So, I don't know, like it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way as far as the mental health rep. It was a highly anticipated book for me, and it's not anymore. The next 3-star book that I read was also a book that I read during Contemporary-a-thon, and that was Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin. This was one of my 19 books that I wanted to read in 2019, so checking that box off. And this is not a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So, like, I was told that this was a book, and I, like, this is my own fault. I don't read reviews. I don't read synopsis. But I was under the impression that this was a book about a woman who had an affair with a married man, and then the scandal that came after that. And, like, we got the scandal for, like, this much. It was not much. We didn't deal with, like, the immediate aftermath. I wanted immediate aftermath news and, like, you know, reporters at her door and, you know, all this other stuff. And we got, like, most of the story takes place, like, 15 years after the fact, where she's, like, basically become another person and has started another life. It was a good story. It was done well, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. So, again, like, I kind of decreased my enjoyment of it. The one thing I did not like about it, because it's told in, like, 5 different stories or 5 different perspectives, and the one where Jane's daughter is talking is all done in emails. And it's only done, it's to like a pen pal in another country at her school. You only see like her side of the emails. You don't see the responses. So you're basically only getting half of the story. And it was really confusing, and like you kind of had to like piece it together yourself instead of like being told the story. That part wasn't enjoyable. I did like the other 4 parts, but again, it just wasn't what I was going in expecting that it was. So that kind of dampened my enjoyment of it. And then the other 3-star read actually was also a Contemporary-a-thon read. Lots of 3-star reads that week. But that was Intercepted by Alexa Martin. This was not one that was originally on my TBR, but I got it from Scribd, and it was actually really good. It's funny how I have 3 3-star books from the same week, and I actually liked them very differently. Like, I liked parts of some, I didn't like parts of others. It kind of goes to show that my algorithm is actually working, because I think if I went off of gut reactions, like the wives would be much lower. Probably so would Young Jane Young, and then Intercepted would be higher. So, like, my algorithm's working. So, but anyways, I can, you know, you can have varying opinions on the same star rating. There we go. That's my takeaway for that. But anyways, this book, like, I'm finding that I really enjoy football romances. So if you have any more, let me know down below if you have any, like, favorites or anything like that. And I will check them out. I am going to be reading Blitzed soon, and I'm excited about that one, which is a companion novel to this. But anyways, so this is about Marley, who is the girlfriend of the wide receiver for what's basically the Denver Broncos. Let's just be honest. She finds out that he's cheating on her. She breaks up with him, and then ends up like falling in love with the quarterback who's like the new guy on the team. And so it's very controversial, but it was like steamy. It was hot. Like, Gavin is my new book boyfriend. He's adorably sweet and just so precious. So, love him with my whole heart and soul. There were a couple of things that I really didn't like. One being there was some really unnecessary drama at the end of it that, like, I don't know, did we just need an extra 50 pages on the book, and so we just added this extra drama? It was weird. It was confusing. It didn't need to be there. I think the story would have worked better without it. And then the other thing was that she did this a lot. she would say something, and then in the end of the paragraph or the end of the sentence, it would be like, hashtag blah, 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 hashtag blessed for life, and it was so irritating. And I don't know that it would have been as irritating if I was reading it, but because I was listening to it on audio, and like the narrator would get like very loud for it, it was too much. It was too much. And I'm really hoping she did not do that in Blitzed, but we'll see. All right, my 3.5-star read for the month was Parental Guidance by Avery Flynn. And this was, again, a sports romance. It was a hockey romance. And this was about two people who have decided that they don't really want to date. They're fine on their own. They don't need that. And they certainly don't need their parents setting them up. But guess what? That's what's happening. They're on this, so this dating app has your parents set up the date for you. So that happens, and he's basically doing it to try to, restore his name after something, kind of unsavory happened and, got leaked to the press. And she's doing it because her friend said if she does, then she would introduce her to this famous artist that she wants to meet. So it's a fake dating, which we all know I love. And it was hot. It was steamy. Again, sports romance. I think that's my thing. There wasn't a lot to it. I finished it in one day. It was a very, very short audiobook. And I listened to it on one of my days that I had a road trip. And it was really, really good. So there's not a lot to say about it. It was smutty, it was sexy, and it was funny. There was a lot going to it. That was the one that had dyslexia rep in it, which again, you don't see a lot, but he did have dyslexia, and it was very obvious and open about it, which I thought was really cool. You don't see that a lot, especially not in romance. All right, moving on to my 4-star read, which was another... I think this was a contemporary-a-thon read too, but that was The Avant-Garde Volume 1. This was an ARC I received from NetGalley, and it was really cute. It gave me very, Giant Days vibes. I really enjoyed it. It was cute. It was about this girl who goes to a drama school, but at her old school, she had played basketball. It was setting up a lot of things. We don't know why she left her school. We don't know why she, doesn't really want to play basketball. So there's, a lot of things that we don't know yet. But again, it's volume 1. We'll find it out. But the whole book is basically about the team trying to get her to join their team so that they have enough members to play against other schools. It was cute. The graphics were great, and definitely one that I'll pick up in the future. Moving on to my 5-star reads, which will absolutely make my best of books of 2019, I have no doubt. One of them came out of left field, so... but the first one I want to talk about is Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. This was another contemporary-a-thon read. This was a book that I buddy read with the Kaylee from the Dog-Eared page, and she gave it 5 stars and loved it as well. But this is about 3 children who find out that they're adopted, or they know they're adopted. They find out that they're actually all siblings, that the same birth mother gave them all up for adoption, and they're on a quest to find their birth mother and kind of figure out life as an adopted kid, as a kid in foster system. And this is the most precious book ever. I was 20 pages in when I cried. And I don't cry in books. So this was, so beautiful. And I don't know why it took me so long to pick this book up. It is definitely a passion of mine and a desire of mine one day to adopt. And so I wanted to wrap these babies in my arms and give them a hug forever. And make sure that they did not find any more darkness in this world, because they deserved all of the light and all of the love. And the ending bawled my freaking eyes out. I obviously gave this one 5 stars. I loved it. I highly recommend this book. You should pick this up if you haven't. I don't know what else I can say about this book other than it is the best. It's amazing. All right, moving on to my favorite book of the month and possibly my favorite book of the year. It was so great that I bought 2 copies of it, and I never buy 2 copies of the same book. That is Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff. This is the 3rd and final book in the Nevernight trilogy, and this book was perfection. It is not a spoiler. He makes it very obvious in the first book that Nevernight is about me as birth, God's Grave is about me as life, and Dark Dawn is about me as death. So that's not a spoiler or anything like that. But it just wrapped everything up so perfectly. It was beautiful. There was betrayal, there was love, there was sex, there were parts that I laughed out loud in this book. J. Kristoff is an amazing writer because you can go from laughing to literally turning the page and bawling your eyes out. It's fine. So this book wrapped so many things up that, like, I didn't even know I needed a resolution for, but I got it. This was so good. This was so perfect. I loved it. I highly recommend it, especially if you didn't love Nevernight, because that was honestly my least favorite book in the trilogy. So if you didn't love Nevernight, I would definitely implore you to keep going, and I hope you love it too. Now, I mean, there are people that did not, and again, valid. You have a valid opinion, because a lot of people love this book, and so if you didn't, again, valid opinion. Anyways, that is all I have for you today. I know this was a little bit long and rambly. I apologize for that. So if you have stuck around this long, thank you very much. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. And all of the links to my social media are in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.